by Mia, and Lily.
Hail, noun. Pellets of frozen rain that fall in showers from cumulonimbus clouds.
Hail comes in many forms. Some are small, and some are big. Some are spiky, and some are smooth. This picture shows hail falling from the sky. The thunderstorm that pounded south-central Nebraska in June ended up leaving something for the record books. The largest hailstone ever recovered in the United States, a 7-inch wide chunk of ice almost as large as a soccer ball. The National Climate Extremes Committee, which is responsible for validating national records, formally accepted the measurements last month, 7 inches in diameter and a circumference of 18.75 inches. The hailstone was recovered in Aurora on June 22nd.
Although deaths from large hailstones are rare, it can cause significant injuries if you're caught outside without shelter. The NOAA estimates that 24 people are injured from large hailstones each year.
Hail can also cause damage to properties, such as car windows, rooftops, and plants.
Hail causes about $1 billion in damage to property and crops each year.
Now you will see a hailstorm in action.
Giant hailstones have rained down on South China's Guangdong province, leaving at least 9 people dead and nearly 300 injured. Local authorities said the thunderstorm hit Dongguan City on Wednesday afternoon, with winds reaching up to 177 kilometers per hour. Some hailstones were as large as 8 centimeters in diameter. Storms also hit central China's Hunan province and Guizhou province in the southwest of the country. Houses and electricity lines were severely battered, as were many vehicles. The local meteorological department forecast that there will be no let-up in the rain for a few days. Lu Yang, BBC News.
Peak months for high hail activity are historically March, April, May, and June. Hail can originate from any thunderstorm, but large hail is most common in rotating thunderstorms called supercells. Nearly all supercells produce hail, while less than 30% of supercells produce tornadoes. The states that typically have the highest hail rate include Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Wyoming, according to the NOAA's Severe Weather Storm Database. Almost 3 inches of rain and hail flooded roadways and covered yards. While individual hailstones were not large in size, the amount of hail was enough to bring significant problems. On April 28th in Sydney, Australia, a severe hailstorm took place. According to the National Severe Storms Laboratory, a hailstone the size of a baseball falls at a speed comparable to a baseball thrown from a major league pitcher, nearly 100 miles per hour, a good indication of why injuries to a person's body from large hail can be so severe. Hail forms when thunderstorm updrafts are strong enough to carry water droplets well above the freezing level. This freezing process forms a hailstone, which can grow as additional water freezes onto it. Eventually, the hailstone becomes too heavy for the updrafts to support and it falls to the ground.
This video shows exactly how hail is formed.
Now the On Your Side forecast with Chief Meteorologist Scott Dorval.
My name is Hannah, and I go to Robert Williams in the county, and I teach Miss Hannah, and I want to know how is hail formed.
How does hail form? What a great weather whiz kid question from Barbara Morgan STEM Academy. I went to see the second graders on Monday, and I'll be asking lots of questions throughout next week as well. And that was, how does hail form? Well, it's an interesting question because typically people think, well, if ice falls from the sky, shouldn't that be during the wintertime? Well, not necessarily the case. In fact, most likely it is in the summertime because thunderstorms have to form. When you get lots of heat rising, that air rises and it cools, like we talked about in the water cycle there. Air cools and condenses and makes the clouds. If you have rapid updrafts here, very strong updrafts, it takes water, the water droplets that are falling, and then it pushes it up to where it's colder, and there's very cold air aloft in here, and so temperatures are below freezing, and you start to get ice forming. The ice crystals continue to grow and then cluster together, and you can get clumps of little hail sticking together to make big hail balls. And the stronger the updraft, the more it can hold, the more weight it can hold, and so the hail will get larger basically by the stronger the storm system is. And so eventually the hail gets so big that the updrafts just cannot handle it, and gravity takes over, and the hailstone comes down to the ground. It could be 80 degrees, and ice could be falling from the sky when that happens. So typically here in Idaho, we're getting hail that's like this. You see here maybe a half-inch hail, pea-sized hail. This is fairly typical hail, and that comes from a pretty strong storm. But we have had some large hail here. This is not a picture from Idaho. You can see how wide this hail is, about 8 inches. One of the biggest hailstones ever recorded here. Lots of little hail all clustered together. But we did have hail this size up in Cascade with one of those storms that moved through over the summer. Great question from Barbara Morgan STEM Academy, and more questions to come this week.
In conclusion, we've learned about the sizes and shapes of hail, how hail is formed, and the biggest hailstone ever recorded.
Thanks for watching!